Losing her innocence, struggling with burnout, and dealing with the realities of Hollywood. All before the age of 12. Bailee Madison has been acting since she was an infant, and it hasn't always been easy. Few can say they got their first acting gig as an infant, so it makes sense that Bailee Madison felt a little burnout while still in her childhood. She admitted this in an interview with AustraliaNews.com, saying that the long days, constant memorization of lines, and hundreds of auditions started to take their toll after a while. Psychologists say this is to be expected, as former child stars like Jodie Sweetin, Jeanette McCurdy, and Selena Gomez have all expressed. There's a lot of pressure and trauma that can come with growing up in the spotlight. Wanda Behrens-Harrell, a licensed clinical social worker, wrote for Psychology Today, young actors must constantly cope with rejection, jealousy, self-scrutiny, obsessive thoughts, and the nonstop need to be perfect. Madison knows the crippling feeling of rejection all too well. She told Shun magazine, "I'm still working 24/7, and all these years later, I still hear no's and I still face disappointments."
You got any Barbies?
Yeah, I think I have a few.
We all loved Bailee Madison and Hallmark's hit series Good Witch, but she almost didn't make it that far in her career. When she was just 11 years old, she went through something that made her rethink acting altogether. Speaking to Wondermind in 2024, Madison opened up about her career as a child actor, saying that it had its fair share of challenges. She told the publication, there were times in my younger life on sets where things would happen, in family dynamics when I was 8 or 11, or things that people say all the time in your childhood. There was a situation that happened when I was 11 that really just cut really deep and made me question my faith at the time. She didn't elaborate on what the situation entailed, but said that the incident made her want to leave her career as an actor behind, telling Wondermind, "The thing that I love the most, I was really, really, really low." She has since realized that what happened wasn't her fault or responsibility, but it did teach her that she determines her own success, not other people. She also learned to reframe how she looked at her career and had to accept that it won't always be easy. In her aforementioned chat with Wondermind, Madison offered some advice to her younger self. Above all else, she wished she could go back in time and tell little Bailee not to entertain any thoughts about how she's not good enough. She told the publication, "Looking back, 11 on was maybe subconsciously when I started to be highly aware of the industry that I'm in and be highly aware of people's opinions. This made her teenage years extra difficult. Just about everyone deals with extra insecurities when we reach our tweens and teens. But Madison had the opinions of the public, the press, and casting directors to contend with." She went on, "I just feel like there's an innocence that starts to be stripped away more and more." She said that at some point, the bravery and self-confidence she had as a child slowly started to dissipate. Now she's trying desperately to get it back. She mused, "I think life can dent you. When you're a kid, I don't know. There's this belief that things will be better and that you can be anything that you want to be and do anything that you want. And then adulthood really just slaps you in the face." Now she's trying to keep her 11-year-old self's bravado and confidence in the back of her mind when she feels her self-consciousness creeping in. She said, "That's something that I'm really doing my hardest to bring back into my life right now."
What have you done to me? Because I love it.
Some stars prefer to live like normal people, and it might be safe to say that Bailee Madison is one of them. She's always been a pretty private person and hasn't been involved in any high-profile drama like so many of her peers. In 2023, however, Madison gave fans a look into her personal life when she took to Instagram to share that her grandfather had died. She wrote, "Monday, October 23rd, my grandpapa passed away. A few hours after I landed back in LA after flying to Florida, where I was able to give him another hug." Madison went on to lament that he would not be around to share the coming chapters of her life, but did acknowledge that she was grateful for the time she did have with him. She went on, "I do know I will carry him with me and feel him in my heart always. 98 years of life and love. And now, he has returned to my grandma, the love of his life. Raising a glass of wine to you, Grandpapa. I love you with all my heart." If you're pretty up to date on Bailee Madison's relationship history, you know that her first serious boyfriend was Emery Kelly, and the reason they probably broke up is because he was, quite frankly, a bit of a jerk. In September 2015, Madison took to Tumblr to post an essay about the negative effects of stereotypes, revealing that she'd been subjected to them herself. She wrote, "I was just labeled as a prude by someone a few weeks ago. Now, at the time, I didn't know what it meant, so I just laughed it off and nodded my head awkwardly, as I do. I then got home and looked up the definition of it and was so taken back. At the time, Madison did not reveal who called her a prude. It was only in February 2016 that she drummed up the courage to open up about it. She told Clover Letter, "The person who called me a prude was the first relationship I'd ever been in. When you're 4 years old and a boy says that you can't throw better than us, it's both an insult and a challenge. It makes you want to prove them wrong. The same goes for calling someone a prude. It's okay to have morals." She told the outlet that the experience taught her not to put up with a relationship where her values aren't respected. When Bailee Madison lands a part, she gives it her all, but she's the first to admit that it can become emotionally taxing. In her interview with Wondermind, she shared that she's an empathetic person and tends to take on the emotions and energy of others. While that can be a sort of superpower when acting is your full-time job, it can also be mentally taxing when you're working on a show that's a bit on the darker side, especially if your character has a multitude of personal issues. She said in the interview, "So for 19 hours a day, for 9 months at a time, if you're playing someone who, even within the joy, still has those cuts inside, just like every human does, it's something that I'm cautious or thoughtful of, even if it's not on the page or necessarily calling for it." She said that filming Pretty Little Liars: Original Sin really tested her resolve when it came to her mental health, telling the publication, "I remember flying back from filming and my sister looked at me and was like, 'You are 20% Bailee. I feel like you are still so deep into that world.'"
No, Karen, he kissed me. Get out! Karen, please believe me. Get the out of my house, you.
While filming the first season of Pretty Little Liars: Original Sin, Madison felt incredibly lucky to be a part of the hit franchise. However, at the time, COVID-19 pandemic restrictions were very much in effect, which meant no one from home was allowed to visit her. She told Wondermind, "I remember having this moment of, I'm doing a show that has always been a dream of mine, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm also the lowest I've ever been." What's more, the show's dark subject matter didn't exactly help lift Madison's spirits. She went on top of being emotionally attached to a character, you're then also going home to somewhere that isn't actually your home, and no one's really there to ground you or see you. That can sometimes be the most isolating part of filming. You're around 1,000 crew members, and then you walk into your home at night and it's just kind of silent. That can play with my head. Madison shared that phone calls with her loved ones and spending time outside help her feel less removed from the outside world when she's filming. What's more, while shooting the second season, she brought her dog along and regularly hung out with her co-stars when they were off the clock. She told the publication, "It's the little things that make the impossible seem a bit more possible." Madison has undergone a stunning transformation since she first graced the silver screen at the age of 5. Despite her long and impressive career, she still finds herself dealing with insecurities from time to time. Madison is the first to say that growing up in front of cameras wasn't always glamorous. She told Shun magazine, "Growing up is hard in general, and then adding a bunch of strangers watching it happen and commenting freely can be overwhelming at times. There's such a societal pressure to look and be perfect." When asked about a photo shoot that she did without any makeup, Madison remembered it being a scary moment. While she usually enjoys going makeup-free, she wasn't so sure about baring her skin for a magazine shoot. She admitted, "I was feeling very self-conscious and not photogenic at all. I left the shoot feeling insecure and feared that when people saw those pictures, they would think that I wasn't pretty enough to be in a magazine spread." On top of feeling insecure about the actual photos, she felt insecure about feeling insecure. In the end, though, she was happy with the shoot. She told Shun magazine, "I always preach to let your skin breathe and feel confident with yourself. And yet I had a hard time doing that myself. Then the images were sent to me, and this has since become one of my favorite shoots that I've done."